They thought their golden retriever was begging. He wasn't anywhere near the food. Sandrine Okafor had a 7-year background in early childhood education before she became a mother. She had spent nearly a decade observing child behavior, animal interaction in classroom settings, the 1,000 small dynamics of how living things move around each other. She thought she knew what she was looking at when she saw her golden retriever pressing his face toward her baby in the high chair every single mealtime. She was wrong about all of it. Their golden retriever, a 5-year-old male named Remy, had always been a food-adjacent dog. He knew the meal times. He knew the sounds. The high chair being unfolded was a signal he had trained himself to respond to. So when he began appearing at mealtime and pressing his face toward baby Lise in the high chair tray, Sandrine's husband, Thierry, laughed. "The man wants scraps," he said. "Classic Remy." Except Remy wasn't looking at the food. Sandrine noticed that on day 3. His nose wasn't aimed at the tray. It was aimed at Lise's face, specifically her mouth. Each time Lise cried or fussed in the chair, which was often the ordinary protest of a 10-month-old being offered pureed carrots, Remy pressed his muzzle closer. She filed it, noted it, moved him away from the chair. Day 4, the same. Day 5, Remy began standing with his front paws on the footrest of the high chair, lifting himself high enough to position his nose at Lisa's eye level. Once, twice. The third time he did it during a feeding, he held position for 12 seconds with his nose pressed to Lisa's cheek while she cried. Sandrine had to use both hands to pull him down. "He is begging in the wrong direction," Thierry said, still amused. Sandrine was less amused. On day 7, she moved Remy to the kitchen and closed the baby gate during all mealtimes. Remy sat on the kitchen side of the gate and whined, not loudly but steadily, the specific sustained vocalization of an animal that wants something specific and cannot communicate what. She told herself, "Remy has developed a food-adjacent fixation. He associates the high chair with the possibility of dropped food and has begun targeting the source of the food rather than the floor below it." She built a plausible behavioral explanation, and she felt satisfied with it. Her training supported it. Her years of observation supported it. Her satisfaction was complete and entirely wrong. If you stay for stories about what animals sense before we do, you're in the right place. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. On day 11, Lise was in the high chair for the midday feed when Sandrine noticed something that stopped her mid-spoonful. The color in Lise's lips had a faint bluish tinge that she had never seen before. She waited one breath that didn't resolve. She picked Lise up out of the tray. The child's face was fine, normal pink, but as she held her, Lise made a sound that Sandrine had never heard her make. Not crying. Something quieter and more effortful. Remy, behind the gate, went from whining to a different sound immediately. Higher. More insistent. A sound that had no parallel in his 5 years of vocalization history. At the hospital, Dr. Amara Nwasu, pediatric cardiologist, told them about the structural irregularity in Lisa's heart. An atrial septal defect, a small opening between the upper chambers that had been present since birth, producing a subtle but measurable oxygen exchange inefficiency. During periods of heightened demand, feeding, crying, physical effort, the defect created brief episodes of oxygen desaturation. During rest, normal. During mealtime effort, not. Dogs detect oxygen desaturation compounds in exhaled breath. The metabolic byproducts of reduced oxygen exchange at the cellular level produce volatile compounds that shift the breath chemistry in ways a dog's olfactory system registers as an alarm. Remy had been pressing his nose to Lisa's face at mealtimes for 11 days because every mealtime was producing a breath signal that told him something was wrong. Has your dog ever done something that made no sense until it was the only thing that made sense? Tell us in the comments. These stories deserve to be heard. The food theory was the most obvious explanation. It was also wrong. He wasn't watching the tray. He was reading her exhaled air. Every time Sandrine had moved him away from the gate, she had removed the one monitor in that kitchen that was actually working. Lise had the defect corrected at 14 months. It is now closed. She feeds without difficulty, without desaturation, without the breath chemistry that had been alarming Remy at every meal for weeks. Remy no longer presses his nose toward Lise at mealtimes. He still comes to the kitchen. He still lies on the floor near the high chair during feeds. He just looks at the floor now, the way a dog looks when it has finally been relieved of a weight it has been carrying without complaint. Every guardian deserves to be seen, even the ones who never ask for anything in return. If stories like this matter to you, subscribe so you never miss the next one. Sandrine sits across from him at mealtimes sometimes and thinks about the gate, the whining on the other side of it, the sustained vocalization of an animal that had exactly one piece of information and no language for it except proximity and persistence. She kept finding ways to close the distance he was trying to maintain. He kept finding ways back. The next story. A family discovered their dog had been sleeping directly under their baby's crib every night for 3 months. What was happening inside the wall above the crib is something no home inspector had flagged.